Let's go to President Trump and where he is right now. The United Arab Emirates today, his final stop on a tour of the Middle East that has been a whirlwind of business deals and even a reshaping of America's role in that region, or at least approach. But much of the focus right now is on the conversations that are not happening. Both President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin opted to skip peace talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Turkey, even though it was Putin himself who first suggested the direct negotiations. Zelensky showed up in Ankara and was greeted by President Erdogan, but Putin sent a low-level delegation without the power to make any real decisions to Istanbul, which is hundreds of miles away, what Zelensky describes as merely a theater prop. Joining us now, NBC's Keir Simmons, who is in Istanbul. Ben Rhodes is former Deputy National Security Advisor and an MSNBC political contributor. So, Keir, lay it out for us. What exactly is happening in Turkey today?
Well, Chris, you could either call it a mess or very sophisticated diplomatic chess. Effectively, today was the day, as you say, that we were set to see, for the first time, the Russians and Ukrainians negotiate face-to-face, the first time in 3 years. That didn't happen today. I think it is going to happen tomorrow. The Russian delegation is here, led by Vladimir Medinsky. He is a former culture minister in Russia. Not very powerful, honestly. He did lead the delegation 3 years ago in 2022. I was here, and we were there when he announced that they will negotiate tomorrow. Ukrainians, we think, will be. It looks like Secretary Rubio will be here, the envoys, Witkoff and Kellogg. So the scene is set, maybe a day late. President Putin usually makes others wait, so this time the Russians have been made to wait. And frankly, that's what this is. It is negotiation happening in plain sight, negotiation happening before even the talks start. And we know, because of that, how far apart they are. Now, President Trump is still determined to try to figure out how to get Russia and Ukraine quite simply to stop fighting. And he now says maybe it's going to need talks that do involve him. He's been suggesting that he might come here for days. He now isn't. But take a listen to what he said today.
Mr. President, no Putin address. No Putin address. Are you disappointed by that?
No, I didn't anticipate. I actually said, why would he go if I'm not going? Because I wasn't going to go. I wasn't planning to. I would go, but I wasn't planning to go. And I said, I don't think he's going to go if I don't go. And that turned out to be right. But we have people there. Marco, as you know, is doing a fantastic job. Marco's there, Secretary of State, and we have people there. But I didn't think it was possible for Putin to go if I'm not there.
Effectively, what the president is suggesting there, Chris, is that that by force of will, he can get President Putin to compromise in a way that President Putin has not said he would. I should just say, because when President Putin suggested these negotiations here, he didn't say he would meet face-to-face with President Zelensky. That was suggested by Zelensky and by President Trump to up the stakes a little bit, if you like. So the distance between them is still enormous. The Russians still say they want to go back to the negotiations from 3 years ago, which included Ukraine being virtually neutral. Ukraine's never going to agree to that. Ukrainians saying, we're just here to negotiate a ceasefire. That's not what the Russians think they're doing. Tomorrow is a crucial day, a crunch day.
Keir, thank you for that. Ben, look, the president said today nothing is going to happen until Vladimir Putin and I get together. And so let me borrow the phraseology that Keir just used. Is what we're seeing in your eyes some kind of sophisticated diplomatic chess, or is it just a mess?
No, I mean, it's a mess because the fundamental theory of Donald Trump that he can somehow impose a solution on a war between Russia and Ukraine has just never been the case, because Russia and Ukraine have very different views of the war that they're fighting and what the outcome should be. And the goalposts keep moving, by the way. I mean, obviously, famously, he said this would be settled on day one. Then he was trying to get a ceasefire. And what's consistently happened is Ukraine, who he's often blamed for lack of progress, Ukraine has often moved to the positions that the United States put forward, right? So remember, we were talking about a 30-day ceasefire. Ukraine agreed to that. Russia never did. And so now that idea is kind of gone away, or at least has been shunted aside. Then President Trump kind of essentially agreed to a lot of the Russian conditions for the terms on which the war would end. The kind of recognition of the annexation of Ukrainian territory by Russia, not just Crimea, but large swaths of eastern Ukraine, up to 20% of the country, as well as a Ukrainian promise to never be a part of NATO, essentially this idea of Ukraine being a permanently neutral state, which would leave it permanently vulnerable to Russia. And so Ukraine is not going to agree to those things at the negotiating table. And what Ukraine has done is it's brought in its main European backers. So recently you had the Chancellor of Germany, the President of France, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and the Prime Minister of Poland go to Kyiv to kind of back up Zelensky. And at that point, Zelensky said, well, look, I'll go to Turkey. I'll engage in talks. I'm going to do it from my own positions. I'm not necessarily going to start the talks from the positions of Vladimir Putin. And then Putin doesn't want to go. And what all this is about, Chris, is that Putin thinks he has the upper hand in the war on the front line. He thinks he has the upper hand geopolitically because the U.S. president has expressed a continued preference for him versus Zelensky. So why would Putin make any concessions in that scenario? That's why this is a mess, is that there's no incentive whatsoever, no pressure whatsoever for Russia to take anything other than maximalist positions that Zelensky's never going to agree to.
I only have a minute, but let me ask you a complicated question and try to get a truncated answer, which is about the other big negotiations that are going on, about what's happening in Gaza. Israel's carrying out another devastating assault, according to the Palestinians, killing at least 94 in airstrikes today alone. Is this going anywhere? Are these conversations, negotiations going anywhere, Ben?
No. And look, Netanyahu's clearly gone all in with the far right of his coalition, who talk openly about kind of the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. We are at the worst humanitarian conditions that we've seen, which is saying something in terms of no aid getting in terms of bombardment of people that have no structures. They're living in tents. They're moving around. Their land being essentially overtaken and occupied by Israeli forces. If I look across the three negotiations, Gaza, Ukraine, Iran is actually the one that seems like it has the most prospect of potentially yielding something on the nuclear program. So unfortunately, of the three, actually, Gaza is the one that looks the least likely to yield any really meaningful progress in the near term.
Meantime, human rights folks say children are starving to death. Ben Rhodes, thank you, as always.